Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. I am Sterling Holmes. I have a whole new setup over here, so I'm going to be having fun trying out new, different buttons of a new microphone. I apologize. I'm actually holding it right now, and this thing's like 8 pounds. So if you hear noises coming from me that you're not used to, it's because I'm holding an 8-pound microphone because I'm a dumbass, and I got all this stuff and forgot to get an actual stand for it. But Rich is going to be mad at me because I have different things I can do that he can't stop me. So get ready. We're getting technical on this show, but I'm joined now by Daniel Holmes from RGR Football. You can follow him on the X at InHarmsWay19. Harms, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm not doing as good as you are, considering you're just going to have so much fun with this thing over here, and Rich is just going to be like, well, what am I supposed to do? Exactly. Like, you're going to be like a kid in a candy shop with that thing, just pressing buttons. So I wish I was as good as you were right now.
Yeah. I'm feeling strong. Okay. I'm feeling strong over here. We're working on stuff. I'm not a technological guy at all. Like at all. You and I were joking about this before the show. So yeah. If I have anything that goes wrong, you can blame me, but I don't know how to fix it. So we're going to have fun today. Not a lot going on in Chiefs Kingdom. Not a lot of news to actually break. There's nothing outside of OTAs in a couple days that the media could actually go and witness what was happening. So I have some fun questions to ask you, Harms. Get the best advice I can from you. Get your thoughts. Number one, you and I both love the offensive line. I talked about this with you a couple weeks ago, but now we have at least a little more information. How do you see the Kingsley, Suamataia, and Wanya Morris left tackle battle play out? Who at this point on May 28th has the inside edge?
That's a great question. We actually answered that a little bit last night on the RGR live stream where we do Q&A. I think when you look at what the Chiefs did, we knew they wanted to trade up to go get Kingsley. I've also heard from Ryan that they wanted to trade up to get Amarius Mims in the first round. Like, that's what they were also targeting to do. So they wanted to go get a left tackle. If you want to go get a tackle, that means that you're probably more likely to start that player. So I would say right now that Kingsley has the inside edge in terms of what the Chiefs want. Now, when we get into training camp, you get the pads on, you get everyone actually doing all the exercises, the drills, and the plays for being able to execute, we'll have a much better idea. But considering what the Chiefs have done and what they planned to do to get Kingsley, it would appear to me that he's got the inside track to start at left tackle this season.
What does that mean for Wanya Morris? Does Wanya Morris then project more as a swing tackle? In your mind, is he more of a right tackle, and potentially when the contract of Juwan Taylor, you're able to get out of that large contract and Wanya swings to the right side? How do they view Wanya if, and again, in your mind, that Kingsley is the starter game one?
Yeah, so for me, at least, I think they view him as a swing tackle, probably back up to Juwan Taylor. But also, next year, I don't think you or I or a lot of people expect Trey Smith to be in Kansas City. So for me, that means that this year you're going to battle to start left tackle, but worst case scenario, you're an interior swing guy. You can play right tackle, you can back up left tackle, you can back up whichever of the interior guard spots, but also next year, growth, right? I think he could take over as your starting right guard next year and then have solidified guys with starting experience in 2025, which is always something you really want to have. So that's how I see that playing out.
It's an interesting thought process, considering I think a lot of folks expected that to be Hunter Norzad. But again, who knows with Joe Thuney, that contract, with Creed Humphrey, with his pending contract situation, and Trey Smith. Wanya Morris being the super sub potential starter, if you will, does have some validity to it, if you will. Next one. After hearing McDuffie name drop Shamari Connor as well as Nick Jones in regards to the slot corner spot, Trent McDuffie talked about how he's playing more on the outside, how actually last year was a transition to playing more in the slot, how that was the hard part for him. He's used to being on the outside. Now he was in the slot last year. But he name dropped Shamari Connor as well as Nick Jones as the two guys he had tabbed. Who has the inside edge to be in the slot corner?
Yeah, it's got to be Shamari Connor. Not only does he have the experience playing a little bit of slot, last year that's what he played in large part his senior year at Virginia Tech, where he played safety, he played down in the slot. He was a very versatile player, like Steve Spagnuolo likes to have. So he's probably going to be that guy that is, as the quote unquote third safety, slides down if he's out there in a 2 starting set, which we don't really expect him to be in those 2 starter sets. You haven't come out on the field on third on, so 3 wide receiver sets. And that makes me much more comfortable with Trent McDuffie being on the outside much more, because the idea was, last year he was your slot corner. And then this year, if he's still going to be in the slot, that means Joshua Williams and Jaylen Watson are going to be on the outside starting. Not my most comfortable situation that I would want to find myself as the Chiefs in. So that gives me a lot more confidence. And we also saw Shamari Connor's short area quickness on display multiple times last year. So just the fact that he's able to change directions like you need for those slot corners to keep up with some of the quicker guys, it's nice to have some of that experience already. Now, Nick Jones probably projects as a better true slot than Shamari Connor does. I think Connor is better as your third safety, a box type safety with the versatility he brings. I would say, like I said, Connor has the inside track because of the experience, the playing time and stuff like that. But if we're talking about projection to a better player, maybe Connor starts off there and Nick Jones is able to kind of win that, because he does, in my opinion, have a better projection to being a slot player like McDuffie was last year in his career.
Sticking with the safeties here, it feels like the Chiefs have a lot of safeties who almost, I think they're very talented, but a lot that I think you would label as the box safeties, if you will, right? Justin Reed's best when he's in the box. Brian Cook is known as a hard hitter. If that's how you feel with Shamari Connor, right? And then obviously the Jaden Hicks, right? He's known as potentially the box, the replacement for Justin Reed. Just can you break down the safety? And is this just something that the Chiefs value, the ability to tackle and be physical at the safety position? Because they don't have that traditional drop back coverage safety, it feels like.
Yeah, no, they definitely prefer their do-it-all safeties. And I think that Justin Reed really has shown much better, I guess, progression in man coverage over the past couple of seasons. I think last year he was much better in being a legitimate coverage player. I also would just extend Justin Reed. I don't want him leaving personally. I think that he's not only an exceptional leader, but he's really, really great with communication. Those communication skills are also something that they really value. So you look at top down, Brian Cook last year was much better as a true safety, like a true ranging safety. That was something that we didn't see a ton of. We expected Mike Edwards to maybe be that kind of roamer back there. But from what I remember from the first part of the season before Cook got hurt, it did feel like Brian Cook was tabbed. If they wanted to be in cover 3 or single high cover 1, he was the guy to be back there. And he definitely was much more comfortable in that role. He has the range, he has the speed, and we know he likes to hit. And I guess it's more that the Chiefs like guys that are willing to do whatever it takes to win. And I think we've seen with Shamari Connor, with Brian Cook, Justin Reed, Mike, all of these guys that they drafted, they bring in, they have that, I'll do whatever I have to do. Trust you guys to put me in the right position to succeed. And that's another thing that Jaden Hicks is going to bring, because he'll play linebacker, he'll play slot, he'll play man up on tight end, he'll play deep safety, he'll play too high, he'll do whatever it takes. So they just love having these guys that love football. And when you're safeties and you're constantly changing guys around and changing the looks, it's important to have multiple different guys you can throw out there. And Spags and Dave Merritt have done such a fantastic job of identifying that talent and putting them in those proper positions to succeed, that whoever they draft and put back there, I'm pretty much like, okay, I'm comfortable seeing whoever it is in the back there.
You touched on this earlier with who's going to play on the outside. We've talked slot, but we know McDuffie has one outside corner spot locked down. Joshua Williams, Jaylen Watson, who has the inside edge, and who do you think plays the most snaps between those two? Because it feels like they're almost a matchup guy, right? I think coming out of college, the thought was, okay, Joshua Williams is the upside guy where Jaylen Watson may be the floor player. But what we've seen so far is Watson's been a little bit of boomer bust, while Williams has maybe shown more consistency, a little bit of a surprise just based on their body types, at least. What do you make of those two guys?
It's really tough because coming into last year, I think we kind of expected Jaylen Watson to kind of take that over the way he played his rookie season. It felt like he played a little bit better than Josh Williams. And then camp comes around. Neither player was really showing out, not really taking that job that was available in the nickel sets. Now we're seeing, again, they went back to kind of rotating them in. Whoever it was going to be, if you're not having a good game, we'll just throw the other guy out there and see what happens. They have the interchangeable skill set with the size, the speed, and the arm length talent there. So if I had to guess, I would say that this would be Josh Williams' job again to take, that he'd be in the lead, because I think that he's got a better overall skill set than Jaylen Watson. But then again, like, it's really tough to say that now with any grain of certainty because of how often those two players were interchanged for each other multiple times throughout their first two seasons. So it's not a bad place to be in for the Chiefs, because you can always just say, well, if you're not having a good game, we'll throw the other one out there and see what happens. And that typically seems to be something that they both fed off of. If I get an opportunity in game for someone who's not playing their best, then I typically raise my game, and so on and so forth. So I would say right now the edge would be Josh Williams, but I said that last year, and Jaylen Watson came in multiple times and made plays, and it's a frustrating, confusing situation that I do not want to have to deal with myself, and I feel bad for the coaching staff to have to make that decision.
How do you view the corners as a whole? Because it's not like the Chiefs wide receiver room last year because they have a clear-cut one, right? Because they have Trent McDuffie. But from 2 on, it feels a little bit like when the Chiefs said they had 7 wide receivers last year. Feels a little bit like, okay, all these guys are wide receiver 3s. All these guys the Chiefs have are CB 3s. You have Josh Williams, Jaylen Watson, Kamal Hayden, right? You have Nick Jones. You have, I think, a guy who played fairly well through preseason OTAs, Najee Johnson, but I was going to say actually Echo Boydo, but you also brought up Najee Johnson. Like, I don't know if it's the same, because you do have McDuffie, as the anchor, and you do have Dave Merritt, and you know that Dave Merritt can get the best out of guys. How do you view the cornerback room 2 through 6, or however it's going to break down? And does it feel a little bit like the Chiefs wide receiver room last year? Where you're like, well, they have all these wide receiver 3s. And then you find out that you actually had none. You had 0 wide receiver 3s.
Yeah, I hate that you made that comparison, because I think you're right. And it feels exactly the same now that we have the information that we have on the Chiefs wide receivers from last year. I don't know what these guys will turn into. We know that Najee Johnson last year was on track to start in those nickel sets with L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie. We know that. Then he got hurt, and it threw their plan into a bit of a wonky situation where, again, neither Williams or Watson were improving last year in training camp, and that was kind of a red flag for the Chiefs, and part of the reason why Najee Johnson was able to come in and say, I can do this. And now he's a year removed from injury. He's making progress in his rehab. He's been on the field in OTAs, which is a good thing to see. But if you don't have these guys continue to step up, if they're just kind of going through the motions and you don't see much projection out of them, they're in the exact same situation that the Chiefs were at the wide receiver position. So I do think, however, that Kamal Hayden has the upside to be a legitimate number 2 corner aside from Trent McDuffie. From what I've seen of him, I think he's got the most translatable skill set and played a lot of really good wide receivers in the SEC. So you look at what they have. I think Nick Jones, again, could be a good slot player, but the conglomeration of underdeveloped players that they have at the cornerback position leaves a little bit to be desired. And I know people were excited for Jaylen Watson and Josh Williams, but I was very uncomfortable myself with those two being projected to be starters on the outside with Trent McDuffie in the slot. So when you look at the totality of their cornerback room, it's feast or famine at this point, and they kind of need somebody to take a step up, whoever it is. It doesn't matter at this point who's going to take a step up and be a legitimate guy on the opposite side of Trent McDuffie. They got to find someone, and that's going to be, the training camp purposes to figure that out.
Avery, come back. Come on, that was cute. Avery, come back. That was cute, Avery. Yeah. Yes, that's Holmes' daughter, Avery. She's awesome. She loves clementines. She likes Jack Stack barbecue. These are all true facts.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, she's very, very nice. She's
also a little sick, so that's why she's in her pajamas.
Oh, congratulations! You're getting sick now, Holmes. Proud of you. Yeah. That's awesome.
I was just sick, so hopefully this just leaves me alone.
Just pass it back and forth, baby. It's going to be like Mahomes and Travis Kelce. All right, let's talk Harrison Butker, okay? No, I'm kidding. I do want to talk Harrison Butker, but not about what you guys think we're going to talk about. Should we be concerned with the holding operation on kicks, considering Butker went through his previous concerns with Tommy Townsend as the holder? Obviously, a new punter. That means a new holder. Should we give him a little bit of grace? Should there be a little bit of, maybe the first few games of the season, there might be some interesting things happening in the holding operation. Where do you land on this?
Honestly, it depends on who wins the punter job, because I do think that's going to be more of a camp battle than, the Chiefs have kind of already told us that there's going to be more of a camp battle there.
Because I thought it was going to be Ariza.
They also, I forget the name of the punter that they drafted. The undrafted free agent guy that they brought in. But he was one of the best punters in college football last year. And if you have an actual camp battle, I don't know if both of them have holding experience. I do know that Ariza was learning how to be a holder, like on kicks, while he was in training camp for the Bills before he was dismissed. But I need to do more do more research on the UDFA guy who's brought in to be kind of the camp battle there. So yes, Reichow at BYU, he was one of the better punters in the college football last year. So if he was a holder, it also could give him the inside track at winning that job. And like I said, I've heard from the Chiefs that this is going to be a little closer than people thought it was going to be. They just thought it was going to be given to Ariza. I don't think it is. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But that translates directly to the kicker situation. One of the big reasons that Townsend was having trouble, because he wasn't a holder before. Like, he didn't have to do that before. So he had to learn this whole different process for him, and then had to get called out by an ex-Chiefs punter on Twitter to get it fixed. And then it finally got fixed. So as long as we aren't going an entire season plus with this whole issue, I'm not super concerned about it, because we've also seen Harrison Butker just continuously be one of the best kickers in football when the ball's just there. As long as it's there, he'll find a way to get it through the uprights.
Lauren Shank says, we know Juwan Taylor can hold. That's great.
Oh,
Lauren, come on.
That's some low-hanging fruit there.
That was great.
He's better. He's better at actually getting off before the ball does than he is at holding. So
Adam says he was also Brett Coleman's #1 punter in this year's class, if that means anything. Even more than the Iowa guy. Getting some work. I know we actually watched that game in person. I don't know if you remember that, Harms. A year or two ago, we watched that. We were at a bar. We had a lot of beer that day.
That game was insane.
Did we golf and then do that? What did we do that day?
No, we kind of bar hopped a little bit. We were driving around looking at the place, and we played some pool. Yeah, we played some pool, had some drinks, and
we watched a great game of Iowa football, just defense and punting, and we got a real good look at that guy. All right, which rookie do you expect to have the biggest impact this upcoming season? Biggest rookie impact not named Xavier Worthy.
Okay.
Avery is telling Harm's secrets right now, giving him a great high five. So.
She's just telling me that she was just like throwing food into her mouth, and she wanted me to watch. So
it is impressive.
Job, sweetie.
It's great.
It always is.
Great hand-eye.
All right, so I think for me, it's going to be Kingsley Suamataia. I think he is going to win the job myself. Again, I do believe that not only do they want to trade up for him, that they want him to be the starting left tackle. I think he's got the most upside. The fact that he played right and left tackle in college is going to help the transition period. I mean, last year he did play left. 2 years ago he played right, but this coming off this last year playing left tackle, the Chiefs need to have somebody be their left tackle and not have a little bit of a rotation. In the last 2 years, you've seen Orlando Brown, you've seen Donovan Smith, you've seen Wanya Morris. Somebody has to solidify that position, and I believe it's going to be Kingsley. And because not only because of his lineage, his cousin is in the NFL. He's one of the best tackles in football.
Our family reunion has like 15 players who played currently in there, like cousins, and it's wild. Look it up. It's insane.
The lineage is awesome. When you actually look at it, I think that he can call upon Penny Sewell to give him some pointers just to help adjust to the NFL game. I think that connection in of itself is going to be huge for him to acclimate to the NFL game. And his best trait is pass protection. He's not the best run blocker in the world, but one of the big reasons we've seen trouble in this iteration of left tackle not named Eric Fisher is because they haven't been the best pass protectors, and they have been able to let pass rushers threaten the arc too much, and that opens them up to those inside counters. So I think that him in Andy Heck's hands is going to, maybe it's not right away. Like, he's still a rookie. He's going to have some growing pains, but I believe at the end of the season, he's going to have the biggest impact on the team than someone not named Xavier Worthy, who you guys know I love.
Cool Cat says tight end Wiley will be Grunk 2.0. That's a bold take.
It's a bold statement.
Very bold. But what do you make of Jared Wiley? I'm the first person to admit I like to admit some of my deficiencies when it comes to analyzing players. And I've said for the longest time, tight end is the one position that I have no idea how to analyze. I have no idea. There's no pattern that I find in tight end play that I go, that translates from college to the NFL. There's something I can look at and say, yeah, I see how that fits. He might be phenomenal. And quite frankly, drafting a tight end in the 4th round makes sense. My thoughts. I think first-round tight ends based on that trajectory is very, very difficult because, one, it takes so long to develop the guys. Yeah, TJ Hawkinson right now is a great tight end, but not for the team that drafted him. It took him 4+ years. He got traded, had to get new scenery, all that stuff. Tight end in the 1st round to me makes no sense. 4th round tight end, I like that. But where does Wiley fit in? I know he was a former quarterback right at one point. I know he had, 8 touchdowns receiving last year, but part of me sits back and goes, okay, his first 3 years in college, he did about nothing. His 4th year, he started to really come on, and then last year was his best year. But we're using that as a knock against Xavier Legette, saying, why couldn't you get anything done the first 4 years? Should we be using that against Jared Wiley, again, at a position where obviously development takes time? But if we're using that as a knock where it takes 5 years for you to make an impact, should we also hold Wiley to that same standard?
Yeah, that's where I'm a little concerned, is because Xavier Legette broke out in a big way. It wasn't like he was 500 yards and 8 touchdowns. Wiley was 708 touchdowns. He was the number one guy. Yeah. My concern is that, yes, he played quarterback in high school, transitioned to tight end at Texas for 3 years, and then transferred down to TCU because, yes, they're in the same, they're in the Big 12, but to get playing time, he had to transfer to TCU to get on the field. So we have 5 years of college football where you don't dominate anybody you play. That's concerning to me. He is a projection. He's got speed. He has size. He has good ball skills. For me, when I'm watching a tight end, especially for a team that's going to use him in a lot of different ways, and TCU did just that. Like, they used him in line. They used him in the slot. They used him out wide. They used him as a sniffer. You don't have to be a true inline tight end anymore. Like, look at Dalton Kincaid. Look at Sam Laporta. Offenses are doing a really good job of using pre-snap motion to get better angles for blocking tight ends that aren't good at blocking. Dalton Kincaid and Sam Laporta are bad blockers. They're not good. Like, they're just not. But if you can get them in better positions before the snap of the football for guys that aren't moving, you increase their ability to become efficient blockers. Jared Wiley, not a very good blocker. Just not. Noah Gray, fine, not great. Look at Irv Smith, bad blocker. The Chiefs are in a little bit of trouble for blocking tight ends in terms of, Noah Gray, I'll say this about Noah Gray. He's competent now. He's a much better.
Don't dare tell me the Chiefs are re-signing Blake Bell for that blocking tight end. No. Don't you dare.
Definitely not. I do think what we're going to see is that in that movement, that motion for guys like Jared Wiley and maybe Irv Smith, I believe they're going to keep 4 tight ends this year and 6 wide receivers. I think that's how it's going to shake out.
Wow, bold. Quickly, six wide receivers. Does that include Rashee Rice if he's suspended, or does that include they keep 6 when Rashee comes back, they drop the 6th? Because I have some questions roster construction wise on how that's going to play out. Because you might be able to keep 6, and then all of a sudden Rashee Rice comes back, and let's say it's Tony or Skyy Moore, one of those guys are gone.
It's tougher for me. I don't know how the suspension off the roster works. Like, because I can't remember exactly how he's going to be counted against the roster if he's not going to be. So that's something I don't remember. So if somebody that is watching this can give me the exact information, that would be fantastic. But I think at the end of the day, there will be 6 wide receivers on the roster, no matter what. So if Rashee counts on it, then he'll be there. If not, then they'll still keep 6, try to finagle it that way. So, but back to the Jared Wiley thing is, it's really tough for him to be immediately impactful because he's not going to be funneled the football. He's going to be, in my opinion, is that they don't have a ton of size at wide receiver this year, and they're still going to have, again, Skyy Moore, Kadarius Toney, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and then you have Rashee Rice when he comes back, and Justin Watson. Like, that's not the biggest wide receiver room, so they're going to use tight ends in place of that, which fine by me. You still had that speed to be able to stretch the field. They love coming out 13 personnel and throwing the football. They can still do that, especially with Jared Wiley. So he just got a lot of work to do. He's not a smooth mover by any stretch, but he's got good hands, and I think he can be very useful in the red zone, which right now the Chiefs have had some struggles scoring in some of those short tight ends and short quarter situations.
Yeah, it almost reminds me, or at least leads me to believe he's almost a Jody Fortson replacement, a hopeful, healthy Jody Fortson replacement. That to me makes some sense, where you can use him in the red zone, try and get some size down there. Again, MVS was tall, but he didn't play large. So I wonder if this is a little step in okay, we know where we're deficient at, but we'll see if we can make up for it with, again, as you're mentioning, maybe 13 personnel down there on the goal line inside the red zone. Make it work there. Are the Chiefs content with what they have at running back right now? Because right now it looks like it's Isaiah Pacheco, sure, all in. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think he's a fine backup. Whatever your thoughts are on where he was drafted, it's a sunk cost. He's a guy. He knows the playbook. He can somewhat pass protect, not great, but he somewhat can. He can catch the ball a little bit out of the backfield, and he knows the playbook. And in that third running back spot, you have Deneric Prince. You have Keontae Ingram. You have some UDFAs. I don't know where they go. Are they content with this? Are they going to bring in someone from roster cuts whenever another team lets someone else go? Is there a veteran out there that you think might make some sense? I mean, it's not like the free agent market right now is littered with incredible RBs. What do you think the Chiefs do here?
It definitely feels like they are not content with the running back spot, but they let go of the Michael Pirine. And like you said, the running back market's it's just not there. There's nobody out there that you bring in and say, hey, they improve our running back room. It doesn't do that. So I am under the impression that they're going to bring back Jerick McKinnon, as they always do, if he's healthy, which again makes sense. And then they're going to run it back with the 3 guys that they had last year. And then
CJ Spiller. On the roster, off the roster, on the roster, off the roster.
At least they're doing McKinnon the service of just resting him. Like, we're not gonna put you in limbo and bring you up and put you down. We're just gonna we're gonna wait until you want to come back, and then you can come back and do your thing. So, I think Ingram is fine. Keontae Ingram is not somebody that I would want to be the third down back. I don't think that really is where he's going to thrive in the NFL if he ever does, because coming out and even at Arizona, he wasn't very good. So I'm looking at both Amani Bailey and Carson Steele as guys that could possibly make this roster, unless Luis Zemet is like going to be labeled as a running back, because he's probably going to have running back wide receiver flexibility, but how are they going to use him?
How does he fit into this team? Because he might be a returner, which makes some sense. I get that. if he's a running back, then I feel like you have to keep 4 running backs. I can't see him actually getting the ball out of the backfield more than a handful of times all season. Maybe I'm wrong here, but it feels like a great story. It feels like a great story because he doesn't count right now against the roster. My initial thought is he's probably a practice squad guy. He's probably just a guy who's there because he doesn't count against it. I don't see how he fits personally, but maybe you can change my mind or you have a different viewpoint here.
For me, it all depends on what he does in training camp. Because right now, I mean, he's an athlete, but playing it with a helmet on, and he's doing a good job, which is all you're really wanting from him. How are you going to handle the pads? One, if you can actually do some things with pads on, I think he can make the roster. I don't believe he's going to personally, but because of the kickoff changes and what we've kind of seen the Chiefs do sporadically throughout the season with some pitches out of the backfield, even as an H-back, it does get interesting if you kind of plop him down in there and you can have some fun with it. So from maybe a 2025 perspective, I understand it, but there's going to be a lot of growth, a lot of seeing how he does with pads. Maybe he just comes on and he's just like really good at this. I don't know. He's never done it before. So I'm very excited to see. I'm not putting my eggs in a basket of saying this guy's going to be like we saw Dexter McCluster as that running back wide receiver guy. Like I don't think that's going to happen. It's really fun to think about though, but much bigger.
D'Anthony Thomas. There you go.
Pound per pound, the toughest guy that they ever coached, right?
So you're basically saying RB room's not looking good, not ideal. You're not given the harm's stamp of approval. It's the in harm's way.
It is. They are in harm's way. It's
19.
Not ideal. Definitely not ideal. We need some. They need some youth and talent injection.
Yeah. What are fair expectations for FAU? Now, again, I know first rounder, people are going to have their own expectations. I like to say, well, you've heard me say it 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,001. It's a sunk cost. He did it. He said the thing. It's a sunk cost. It doesn't matter where he's drafted. He's now on the roster. Doesn't matter. He's on the team. What are fair expectations for FAU heading into year 2?
First of all, I want everyone to understand that most teams don't have 32 first-round grades. So if you're picking at 32, just assume that's a second-round player and treat it as such, because that's what you should do.
Okay, so what does second-rounder FAU have for fair expectations this year?
I think that we can safely assume probably less than 10 sacks. You don't want to see a double-digit sack season. I think he could get there eventually, but you just want to see growth in the run game department. I think he was showing signs last year. The Super Bowl play was a very, I think, unique situation where they understood that he can shoot that gap based on the alignment of the offensive line and where their defensive players were, and he can shoot that gap and get in the backfield. But that's also how he can win in the NFL from a pass rush perspective. He's quick. He has great hands, and he's got good get-off. Use that to your advantage. We know he's been working with Tom Bahali and his hand usage. You can use that in the run game too. So as a legitimate defensive end, don't expect him to just take the reins and be the number one pass rusher not named Chris Jones. That's going to take some time. I believe he can develop into that, though. Like, that's what I always thought of him coming out. I think that he has the second best pass rush tool bag, meaning all the moves that he has, not named Chris Jones. I think he has the best tool bag in this roster. Now it comes to strength and positioning. Keeping his feet underneath him, being able to set the edge, disengage as a run defender, don't get caught up on blocks, because I think he's a very good pass rusher. If you go back to the Chargers game in week 2, he beat Rashawn Slater a couple of times. It's an all-pro left tackle. He beat him a couple of times. So the flashes from a pass rushing perspective are all there for me for him to be a complete player you can trust out there on 3 downs. If you need him to, it's in the run department. And that's why we're going to see Mike Dana start. That's why Mike Dana 1 was brought back, because he's a good, solid player that continuously sparks. He had a great season last year. You just find ways to grind out sacks, and then you're going to be able to supplement FAU there. So I'm not expecting him to be a starter. If he wins that job, you can safely assume he's going to be getting after the quarterback this season.
Yeah. I think they actually make, I know people are going to be upset by why did you draft FAU in the first round? Again, sunk cost just to bring back Mike Dana. But I think together they make one very, very good player. Like,
Yes.
I think combined, first and second down, you have Mike Dana out there. Again, I'm intrigued to see what they do then. Does that mean Chris Jones stays inside more on third downs or obvious pass rushing situations? Do they, the NASCAR package where Mike Dana swings inside and Chris Jones swings outside? But now do you leave Chris Jones and Mike Dana on the inside and you leave FAU on the outside for third down? I don't know how you see that breaking down, but I think that's going to be a very intriguing thing to watch this season.
I think you can still do everything you'd normally do because FAU with his speed can get past interior offensive linemen. Look at Tershawn Wharton, a guy who was a defensive end coming out, transitioned to defensive tackle. He predominantly wins on speed in the inside. And remember his rookie season where he was just constantly swimming, like knifing past guys. I think you can still put Chris Jones on the outside and isolate him in one-on-one situations and get FAU on a slower lateral moving guard, match him up one-on-one and still find ways to impact the quarterback that way. So I don't think it's going to change all that much in terms of what they want to do with their NASCAR package. It gives you another player that you can put out there, especially if he takes a second year leap and trust to be able to affect the quarterback, which at the end of the day is why he was drafted at the end of the first round.
When it comes to the AFC West as a whole, who's the second best team in the AFC West?
If the Raiders had a quarterback, I'd probably say the Raiders, but they don't have a quarterback, and I'm still going to go with Justin Herbert. And as much as I do not like and trust Jim Harbaugh, I don't think that they're on the quick turnaround path to just win a bunch of games. But I do think they're going to play good defense. I think they're going to run the ball and probably not turn it over a ton. It's typically what they want to do. And I look at the Raiders.
Do that, Holmes. All teams want to not turn the football over. That's
very true.
I don't think the Broncos want to turn the football over, but they're probably gonna.
They're definitely going to. And I'm not so sure Sean Payton doesn't want to turn the football over. He might just be playing with his money back there and saying, I can do whatever I want to do. Who knows what Sean Payton's thinking? But if the Raiders had a quarterback, it would be them, because I love, for the most part, what they did in terms of bringing in the Christian Wilkins to put him with Max Crosby. Their corners have some question marks. I think their defense is going to be good. Antonio Pierce seemingly thinks that Zamir White is the workhorse running back there, which I don't really get. You let Josh Jacobs go, I'm like, fine. I'm very interested in the Devontae Adams of it all. Is he happy with Gardner Minshew throwing him the football? Aiden O'Connell throwing him the football again?
Dog, if it's Gardner Minshew, Devontae Adams is thrilled because
I doubt it.
So much YOLO. There is so much YOLO in Gardner Minshew's game. I've said this. If Gardner Minshew is the starter week 1, I think the Raiders are a 9 to 10 win team, because I think they are a good team. I think they're a pretty darn good team outside of, again, I'm not saying Gardner's a great quarterback, but I think Gardner at this point is almost an underrated quarterback. Again, not great, but I think he's better than people give credit to. The Raiders are better than the Colts of last year. Would you agree or disagree? Because the Colts last year went 9-8. Barely missed the playoffs, had a chance, kind of blew it. It's the same team, same style of team. Devontae Adams, Michael Pittman, Jacoby Myers, Alec Pierce. I think they have better tight ends on the Raiders. Running back, you have Jonathan Taylor versus Zamir White. I get that. Okay, fine. We both agree that running backs aren't going to be the needle mover most likely in today's NFL. Offensive line, I'm probably giving the nod to the Colts. Defense, I'm probably giving the nod to the Raiders. Again, if you're going apples to apples here, I think you're looking at the Raiders as the second best team in the AFC West. I'm not saying they're good. I absolutely hate that I'm saying that because I bleep and hate the Raiders, man. But I have to give credit where credit's due. And as Tilly Train says, Mad Max is a difference maker with Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins lining up together on the defensive line. That is the best defensive duo in the NFL.
I will disagree that they are the same, because Shane Steichen is far and away a better offensive coordinator, constructor, schemer than Luke Getsy is.
Okay.
is going to negatively impact the Raiders. And large part because I'm not saying Justin Fields is a fantastic quarterback, but they couldn't do anything. They could not do anything with Justin Fields, who is an extremely athletic player that you can do multiple things with, and they still couldn't scheme anybody open. I also don't necessarily. I think their offensive line is probably worse than the Colts played last year too. So that's going to impact Gardner Minshew far more than I think that it would have last year. So defensively, I agree. I 100% agree. I think their defense, specifically the front seven, is just kind of going to be insane this year. If they get anything, if just anything out of Tyree Wilson, anything out of their fourth, the top 10 pick 2 years ago, I think he was 8.
If you want to complain about the FAU, you should look at Wilson for the Raiders.
Absolutely. You don't take him where they took him and get away with it. But they have, specifically, I think Spillane's underrated for them. Divine Diablo is a very, very good player who's developed for them. Their front seven is very good. They're just going to get beat again in the secondary because it's not great. I like Nate Hobbs, but everywhere else, they're just like, okay, Trayvon Morrick's fine. Marcus Epps, fine. Bennett, second-year player out of Maryland. Like, that they have some guys in the back end. But.
What's the dude they brought back? He was with the Patriots, had the pick 6 last year. I think he's still there.
Jack Jones?
Yeah, Jack Jones. Yeah, because he was a very talented player. He had some issues in New England.
Yeah.
New England let him go. And maybe because I remember the pick 6, so I'm sitting here going, well, he's a talented player. Maybe that was the one play he made last year. That was the only difference. But that's one guy, again, we knew the talent was there, but he was a little bit of a potential head case is what if I'm remembering Jack Jones correctly.
That's fair. They have some talent there. I'll give them that. I think that their defense is going to be, the front seven is going to be the reason they win football games and the reason they, their defense is impactful because it's just that good. You don't just drop Christian Wilkins into a team and say, yeah, they're marginally better. No, especially when you already have Max Crosby and again, one of the top 3 defensive ends in the NFL and put him next to a top 3 or 4 defensive tackle and say, they're just fine. So I'm on board with saying that their defense is much better, but for in end all be all, I think that just by the way quarterbacks impact football games, I think that I have the Chargers just marginally ahead. But at the end of the day, what is that worth? Half a win?
Yeah.
I don't
know. Before I let you go, 3 positional battles you're looking for in training camp, OTAs, all that stuff. Three battles you're looking at. What are those 3 battles?
We'll leave out the left tackle position because we all
that's like the free bingo. That's the bingo space. In
right.
In that one.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being a good guy and not just taking the easy way out here, Holmes.
Never want to take the
hard way.
You have to have a little bit of spice of life, right? You can't just give what's given to you. So I'm looking at defensive tackle. Okay. I believe that Fabian Lovett, who was a UDFA, can make this roster. I believe it, and I think he can actually be an impact player on first and second down, okay? Because I think that he can take over for what Tershawn Wharton does as the rotational guy next to Chris Jones. I think Fabian Lovett has the best possibility to do that, specifically because we have not seen the Chiefs commit to anybody on the defensive line. They brought back Tershawn Wharton. They brought back Derek Nottie on 1-year deals. Because the guys that they traded for, Neil Farrell and then Isaiah Buggs, they have not committed to.
Yeah,
so there's no.
Give me Isaiah Buggs, dude. Just bugging out.
Sure, but again, they had an opportunity to play him. They didn't do it. A guy who played in the NFL for the Lions multiple times, they brought him in and never played him. So I'm looking at this defensive tackle group, and I'm like, Fabian Lovett can make noise, and so that's an area that I'm looking for. That's something that I'm very interested to see, and then. Probably I'm actually going to be very interested in this punter battle. I'm going to be all special teams, all gas, no breaks here because like we were talking about, yeah, right. It is crickets. People don't want to hear it, but you're taking over for Tommy Townsend. This is an actually impactful training camp battle because it's a guy who he was here last year. And now they have to find someone to be the punter. So I'm interested to watch there and see what happens. Is Araiza going to get back to where he was, or is Rakow going to come in and take that job from him? Thank you. My daughter's just making sure that I drink some water.
Yeah, I forgot my water. So if Avery wants to go ahead and drive over here, bring me a water, a yellow Gatorade. If you can stop a quick trip, Avery, and give me a yellow Gatorade, the OG Gatorade, I'd really appreciate it. Make sure it's not G2. Maybe like a Snickers, like a Reese's. If she wants to, she can.
Okay, well, I'll make sure to let her know in about 10, 11 years or so when she's able to drive, and then we'll have that conversation about what you want from the gas station.
And then also a case of Busch Light. Just
that's
give her a fake ID and just case of Busch Light. I'll be good. That's all I need.
No big deal.
All I need. I'm easy. And maybe some burn-ins. I'm easy.
We can do the burn-ins. We can do that, but I'm not going to be having my daughter give you beer. It's just not going to happen. The last position battle that I'm interested in watching, that I want to see is that slot battle. Who's going to win slot? Because again, if Trent McDuffie is going to be playing on the outside this year, who's going to come in and be that? Are they going to take one of their experienced guys on the outside in Josh Williams or Nazi Johnson or Jaylen Watson and put them in the slot to get some experience? Or is Nick Jones or Chamari Connor just going to come out and take that job? So it's something that I think there's so many different ways that it could turn out that I'm more interested in watching it than I expected it to, especially with the insight now that Trent McDuffie is playing more on the outside, which is where he should be from now on anyway.
Yeah. Part of me is intrigued by the offensive line, just in totality. I don't want to say left tackle, but the offensive line in totality. I want to see if Wanya Morris starts playing more at right tackle. Again, if he does not win the left tackle job and he moves more to right tackle, what does that mean for the future of Juwan Taylor? If Wanya Morris, as you're mentioning, starts playing more guard, what does that mean for the future of either Joe Tooney or Trey Smith? Mm-hmm. If Hunter Norzad is playing a ton of center, more so than guard, does that mean the Chiefs are leaning towards paying either one of or extending Joe Tooney or Trey versus Creed Humphrey? I just think that this year, what we see might not even make a difference on the field this season, but might be a roster construction. Something we look back in a year or so and say, remember when this happened? And there we go. That's along the lines of the positional battles I'm somewhat intrigued in, because again, I'm a nerd, and I think the games are won and lost more in the trenches than people realize. And the Chiefs have done a phenomenal job developing, identifying, growing offensive line talent under Andy Reid, Andy Heck. It's been damn impressive. Even the low lights of players have been serviceable, right? Even if the low lights of Orlando Brown Jr. and Juwan Taylor in the penalties. Yeah. Even if Wanya Morris is a starting left tackle, I think you're sitting back going, he's at least fine. Like, is he that much? I mean, Donovan Smith was fine. It wasn't like it was an utter disaster. And that's what I think. Don't laugh. It wasn't, though. Like,
I'm laughing at this comment from Adam. That's just funny.
Adam says, if they allow Creed to walk, I'm staging a coup. I would join you with arms wide open. We need to go and make sure we go higher, because we want to have the higher ground, if that's the case. That'd be my sacrifice. Okay? With one last breath, I'll fight with you, Adam. What, Arm? I don't get why you're laughing. I don't understand why you're laughing.
Just your career in radio just took over right there for all the
very serious man, Harms.
That was good. That was impressive. I like it.
Dude, I have too much power now that I have this. I'm like a bad comedian. Like, all my bad jokes, no one else is laughing. Yeah, Alan even says, please stop. I'll stop for you, Alan. I'm sorry. That's on me. That's on me. Nate Moore said, got to be Hicks. I'm assuming that's in regards to earlier when we were talking about who makes the biggest rookie impact. Yeah, I could see that. I just see him having a little bit of trouble. It kind of depends with Chamari Connor, Brian Cook being healthy. He's clear-cut the fourth safety right now in my mind. So it kind of depends on if Chamari's now playing the slot or not, which we'll see. But the Chiefs do like to play a lot of three safety sets. Jaden Hicks will get some involvement this year. Oh, by the way, last question before I let you go, because I thought it was actually interesting. When they were talking about a week ago, they were asking Andy Reid in regards to any thought being given to Justin Reid on kickoffs. And I thought he was going to laugh. I thought Andy Reid was like, no, not really. he gave a serious answer. Like, yeah, we've thought about it all. We've given thought to everything. I think there is serious thought to Justin Reid being the guy on kickoffs. Since the kickoff rules have changed, there's an extra importance on that guy being able to tackle.
Yeah.
Do you think Justin Reid will legitimately be the kicker on kickoffs week 1?
I don't personally, but I understand the thought process for sure. It makes a lot of sense with the changes, like you're saying, to have someone that isn't just the last line of defense. Someone can make an impact in that regard. But I think that they're going to have a better plan in place so that it doesn't come down to that. And whether that's kicking the ball out through the end zone or just maybe really, really high, which is something we know that
But it
Harrison
doesn't matter
Butker can
anymore.
do.
The high doesn't matter because you have to wait till it touches. This is fascinating to see how it's going to play out. The fact of the matter is that he did not laugh when being told that Justin Reid might be the kicker on kickoffs. That tells you how far and how much thought and how different this season's going to be on kickoffs.
It's definitely a process that when something changes like that, they have to take everything into consideration, and it shows you how locked in they are. Right? They knew about the overtime changes last year in the Super Bowl, and we saw that the 49ers were not exactly as informed of that. So it does show you how seriously that the Chiefs' entire front office and coaching staff takes just changes. Whatever is being changed, there is always going to be a plan, a backup plan, a plan C, a different thing. So knowing now that they have a plan, and I guess Justin Reid might be kicking off, I'd be interested to see it. I'll tell you that much. I'd be very interested to watch that.
Daniel Harms, make sure you follow him on the X at InHarmsWay19. Make sure you check out all of his great work on RGR Football. Harms, what do you have coming up next?
Tomorrow, Wednesday evening, I have the full-blown Rashee Rice breakdown, going through his rookie season, early usage to gaining trust, his route tree developing, and how he's going to be integrated and continue to be used as the season goes forward without him and when he comes back. So there's a lot coming into this breakdown, and it's a little bit longer because I think it needed it, just to have all the stuff that he did last year as a rookie. And we don't really see that from Andy Reid rookies, especially at wide receiver. So it definitely needed it.
Yeah, so make sure you guys follow Harms at InHarmsWay19. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, for listening, sticking with me with my annoying new setup. I'm sure I'll start figuring out how to use this even more. I will try and get a microphone stand for tomorrow because I'm back with Adam Best at 5 p.m. Central. This is like a 10-pound microphone. This is a workout. This is very hard. Until next time, until tomorrow, we're out.